Take a deep breath and allow yourself to relax. As you focus your gaze on the pocket watch in front of you, allow yourself to sink into a state of deep relaxation. As the watch swings back and forth, let your eyes follow its movement. You may notice that with each swing of the watch, your mind becomes more and more calm and still.
Well, that was hypnotic. Have you ever heard of Franz Anton Mesmer? You might not know him, but you probably have heard the word mesmerism or mesmerize. That's right, that's where the word comes from. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about Franz Mesmer and the discovery he made in the field that we now call hypnosis.
Franz Anton Mesmer lived from 1734 to 1850. Presumably, he was born in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but little is known about his life up until 1766, when he received a doctorate in medicine from the University of Vienna at the age of 32. Mesmer listed several other degrees after his name on the title page of his thesis, but historians have never found evidence that he actually earned any of these degrees.
Does that remind you of someone else?
The title of his thesis was On the Influence of Planets, and it was largely plagiarized from writings by an English follower of Isaac Newton. The thesis argued that planetary gravitational influence directly affects biological organisms on Earth. It was a bit of a crackpot thesis. It was mostly plagiarized, but at the time it wasn't detected. None of these fake credentials and the plagiarism affected him, though, in his lifetime because no one ever found out about it, and thus it didn't hinder his career. After he graduated, Mesmer married a very wealthy widow who was 10 years his senior, and he soon became a social celebrity in Vienna. Well, unlike me, Franz Mesmer was a skilled amateur musician. He had many musical celebrity friends, including Leopold Mozart and his brilliant son, Wolfgang Amadeus. When Wolfgang Amadeus was only 12 years old, Mesmer commissioned an opera from him, Bastien and Bastien, which Mesmer had performed in his own backyard, where he constructed a lavish theater and all of the trimmings, and this is where the world premiere of that opera was. When Benjamin Franklin invented the glass harmonica, a musical instrument played by rubbing damp fingers against a rotating glass drum, Mesmer obtained one and became a virtuoso on it. It looks like Mozart may have even written one of his pieces for the glass harmonica for Mesmer to play. I'll give you a little example of how the glass harmonica looks and sounds.
Around this time, Mesmer and a local Jesuit priest named Maximilian Hell got very interested in magnetism. It seemed to them that it was one of a group of invisible and mysterious fluids that had potentially marvelous scientific consequences. Other such fluids that have been discovered recently included electricity, gravitation, and the mysterious gases that could cause balloons to float. Magnetism seemed to be another one of these important kind of gases or fluids. Mesmer actually was a physician, and he would treat people from time to time. Now, he and this Jesuit priest, because of their interest in magnetism, thought maybe they could find a way of applying magnetism to the medical practice. And at this time, in 1773, Mesmer was treating Franziska Osterlin, a young relative of his wife, who suffered from periodic attacks of what Mesmer would call hysterical fever.
I'll talk more about hysteria in another video, but these attacks would involve convulsions, spasms of vomiting, inflammation of the intestines, the inability to make water, agonizing toothaches and earaches, despondency, insane hallucinations, attacks of paralysis that would last for days, and other terrible symptoms. So how did he treat her? Well, he had her swallow a drink containing iron shavings. And then he would touch parts of her body with magnets. And what happened was that she would enter a crisis state when he did this. That would involve twitching, convulsions, and an intense pain in the location of each of her symptoms, and he had to come back again and again to these different places.
He would repeat this treatment each time, and eventually she did get better. In fact, Mozart's father, Leopold, had seen her at her emaciated sickest, and when he encountered her 6 years later, he reported in a letter, quote, "On my honor, I hardly recognize her. She's so large and fat, she has married 3 children, has 2 girls and a boy." Interestingly, Mesmer believed that the magnets alone didn't achieve the cure, but rather it was his own animal magnetism that he had accumulated over the years. Mesmer began treating other patients with his hands instead of the magnets, asserting that they would fall into a crisis, and they did. Another famous patient of Mesmer was Maria Theresia Paradis, a blind teenage piano prodigy, who came to Mesmer because she wanted to restore her sight. So he began his treatment with these magnets, and she started to get better. And as she got better, her parents grew concerned and they removed her from his care, and she became blind again. Her parents then went on to some more conventional physicians in Vienna, and they all together started calling Mesmer a charlatan and charged him with improper conduct. Mesmer's supporters replied that the parents were upset only because her celebrity value had decreased when she gained normal vision. Now, we don't really know what the truth is. In this particular case, it's possible that she could have suffered from some sort of psychogenic blindness that Mesmer really did alleviate temporarily through his treatment. But nevertheless, now he had conventional physicians voting against him, and this made him have to leave Vienna in disgrace in 1770. He moved to Paris, where he spoke French with a very heavy German accent. There, Mesmer established a medical practice using magnetism, and even Mozart would come and visit him whenever he happened to be in the city. As Mesmer's reputation grew, the city became divided between those people who thought he was a complete charlatan and those who thought he was brilliant and became his followers. During this unstable period in French history, the French Revolution was looming, and society was particularly prone to fads. Mesmer's animal magnetism fit in really well with all of this, and even though he was charging enormous fees that very few people could afford, he still had a huge list of clients that was so big he couldn't handle them individually. So Mesmer devised his famous Baquet, a tub that could mass-produce magnetic cures. In the treatment room, people would hold on to iron rods connected to the Baquet, which was filled with water and iron fillings that were magnetized. This invisible magnetic fluid was supposedly storing an electrical charge and was like an early battery that sent a current through the patient's body. Mesmer would play ethereal music on his glass harmonica to help set the tone, and after a suitable state of anticipation had been established in the patients, he would emerge dressed in a flowing lilac robe and began pointing his finger and the iron rod at the afflicted parts of the patients' bodies. Usually 1 or 2 patients would pass into a crisis state and serve as models for the rest. Soon the room was full of convulsing, crisis-ridden patients, and the most violent of these would be carried by Mesmer and his assistants to a clearly marked crisis room for individual attention. Not all patients experienced a complete crisis, but even some of these partial responders found their symptoms improved after the session was over.
Safe. Put the rods on whatever part of your body ails you. Now.
It's important to note how suggestion and social contagion play important roles in this process, where how you should act is actually being modeled by others in the room. And so it doesn't take long before in this kind of situation you've got everybody sort of copying what another person is doing. Mesmer definitely wanted official and scientific recognition for his achievements, but unfortunately he never received it. In 1784 he faced 2 major blows to his career. First, he joined the royal court to attend a gala concert by that brilliant pianist from Vienna, Maria Theresia Paradis. And this was a big mistake because after the concert was over, there was a confrontation between her parents, Mesmer, and this was a huge blow to his reputation, and gossip soon spread throughout Parisian society. The second blow came soon after this, when the king ordered a blue ribbon commission to investigate Mesmer's claims. The commission was chaired by Benjamin Franklin, the noted American scientist, included other such experts such as the great chemist Lavoisier and the physician Guillotine. The commission's goal was to investigate whether Mesmer had discovered a new physical fluid, not whether his treatments were effective. The commission conducted several experiments on the fluid in these Baquets and ultimately concluded that there was no evidence for any special fluid. However, they did find that good subjects who were attached to these Baquets would fall into crisis when presented with something they believed was magnetized, even when it wasn't. This led the commission to unanimously conclude that animal magnetism was a bogus science.
While the commission didn't deny that some patients might have been helped, they attributed this to the influence of suggestion rather than some sort of physical forces that you might find in biology or physics, for example. As a result, the commission discouraged legitimate scientists and doctors from taking mesmerism seriously. And as a result, the scientific study of things like hypnotic phenomenon was relegated to scientific amateurs for many, many years. Mesmer himself disappeared into relative obscurity after this, but he still had some followers who kept magnetism alive. And despite the fact that he never officially received scientific recognition for his work, there's no doubt that he had a significant influence on the way hypnosis developed after that. Now, there's more to this story, and I'll be posting another video in this series on hypnotism where I'll talk about what happened next and how it began being used in France for the treatment of patients with hysteria. So if you like this video and you'd like to know when that next video comes out, please consider subscribing to my channel and giving it a like, because it lets me know that you're out there and that you want to get more of this kind of content. So thanks for watching.